You mean to tell me that I have a lethal amount of alcohol in my blood right now as I'm speaking to you? Then why am I not falling down drunk? Good morning and welcome to My Daily Walk, the daily podcast where an anonymous Hollywood guy walks around and talks about anything and everything except those things he's contractually obligated to conceal. I do believe that was the cleanest delivery I've ever made for my backup sentence. Like, you start with a cold open and then you have your catchphrase, and that one, mark that one, that's the one that could be used in promotional whatever. That's the line. So here we are. It's Life Lesson Tuesday. All right, Life Lesson Tuesday, where I tell stories and try to avoid noisy places in the process. That's exactly it. Tell stories and try to avoid noisy places and try not to be noisy and try not to be annoying, but do everything I can, everything within me, to be as interesting as possible. Why? Perhaps because I'd like to entertain. I'd like people to, feel good. Maybe there's something interesting and they say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That's all I can hope for. But I'm just being straightforward and honest about what's going on in my life and what I think about it. And that's the show. And today, Life Lesson Tuesday, before I get to the particular story I've selected, because I thought about several stories, and I imagine eventually I'll tell most of them, but which one do I tell next? So I settled on the story for today that kind of discloses my, every story discloses something about you. And today's story, gives you a glimpse into my past, a darker side of my past. And just to try to avoid people walking and cars driving. All right, where was I? I probably should have paused that right there because I just came to an intersection. There's all kinds of distracting stuff. So, the story for today. Oh, before I get to it, I need to work this in up front every day. If you want to be a part of the show, if you want your emails read and your topics discussed, it's a call and response. You shout something out to me, I'll read some interesting thoughts you have. I'll read them. If you want them read, I'll read them. It's just email them to me. I'll just read the email, and then I'll use that day as that'll be the topic of the day, or I'll just read a bunch of them and pick one. I don't know. We'll see. That'll be Fridays. But email me at here goes nothing. No. What am I talking about? My Daily Walk. What am I talking about? Email me at MyDailyWalk at thiswaytv.com. That was an interesting flub, like a verbal flub, if you go back and listen to what just happened. I'm going to ignore it and move on because I'm not editing. I'm just recording. So email me at MyDailyWalk at thiswaytv.com and I'll read it and we'll talk about it. And it'll be, right now, Fridays are Freeform Friday. Today is, you know what today is? I've said it twice already. I'm not going to say it a third time. Tomorrow is Topical Wednesday. 100 billion. I forgot. 100 billion nuclear bombs. I think that's it. Thursday is, where did I leave off on Thursday? Well, you'll have to tune in Thursday to see what Thursday is on Freeform Fridays. I have plenty of topics. I have plenty of stuff backed up. As soon as I start getting emails, I'll let you pick the topic on Friday. So I need to start plugging that in every episode. I hope I can remember that. All right. So here's the story. Let me see. Take a quick glance at the timer. All right. I don't know how long it'll take to tell this story, but I'm going to either finish early or not get done at all. We'll see. It's a perfect place to walk right now. Oh, okay. Where do I begin? The final day of my freshman year in high school. The last day of my freshman year in high school. I didn't really have a normal freshman year. Normal, what's normal? But I didn't have the traditional freshman year, or the most common, what most people at least in the United States education system, experiences freshman year at a 4-year school, where you're the newcomer. You come in and you're the low man on the totem pole. It's a whole new world for you. But my freshman year was more like a pre-senior year, because the school I went to was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So you're like the big kid on campus as a 9th grader, and not the new kid. So the last day of my freshman year was like the big bash blowout. It was the big bash blowout party for all the partier kids in school. Yeah, I didn't even know about it until like the day of. literally, I didn't know about it until like the day of. But I was always in the right. Well, I was frequently included in some of the social goings on, and well, by default, I just happened to be friends with one of the most popular kids in school, but not because of his. It's not like he was egotistical or anything, or like a jock, or he was the younger brother of a guy who was really cool, 2 years older. So it's like he was drafting off of his brother's coolness, and so I just happened to be the neighborhood kid that rode the same bus. We lived up in the country and took a bus to school, and my dad was friends with his parents, and so life was fun. Too fun. I should have been doing other things, but I was partying. That's the backdrop for this story. So he said, we're going to a party, but first we have to go to the store and find somebody to buy us alcohol. I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of money, let's put it together. And he came with a bottle, maybe he just pilfered it from his parents' cabinet, and then we put together our money to get a second bottle. So I don't know, a bottle of brandy and a bottle of vodka. I don't know. We didn't care. It's just the alcohol content we were interested in. So we purchased, we're 14 years old? Yeah, 14, I think. Both of us. And who knows where our parents are? They're off at work. We're on our own, doing our own thing. I don't know where my sister is. I have one sister. So we're sitting at the front of the store, as we've done many times before, money in our pocket, looking at people walking in, like, that guy would probably do it. Hello, sir, would you buy my friend and I a bottle of vodka? Here's the money. He's like, oh, okay. In, out. Here you go. That's it, a business transaction. I mean, I don't know, we leave him a tip or just, I don't know. I don't recall any of those specifics, but So here we are, two 14-year-old boys each with a full brand new bottle of hard liquor. And one of them's open. I don't remember which one it was. The one he brought or the one I bought, or we bought. That first one was gone pretty quickly. And I'm like, I do remember this. We were walking to the party from the store. I don't know, maybe went to a park first. Probably went to a park first to just sit and drink a little bit, and then, all right, where is it? He knew where it was. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what was going on until we got there. He's like, there's a party. It's the last day of school party, whatever. So we get there. We on our way, we finished the first bottle, and I remember distinctly saying, hey, let's open the second one. Let's go. Let's keep going. He's like, no. So I mean, what we had just drank had not hit us yet. It was just upon us. It was just creeping up on us right then. We got to the party pretty soon. Separated. Who knows where he went. Girls were probably climbing all over him. I mean, he was a popular kid, and I'm just his friend. And I get there's all these people there, like the popular kids at school, and then older brothers and sisters or whatever. Just it's a party. And like the keg is on the way. I remember being the first one at the keg, and still the hard liquor had still not fully set in. The keg got there quickly. I was like, all right. And I remember the first red cup out of that keg was mine. I was here, I'm 14 years old, half a bottle of hard liquor already in my system. And I remember finishing that first cup of beer really quick and going and getting that second. And that's about it. That's about all I remember, seriously. I do remember the guy tapping the keg and everybody gathered around me right up front. I'm like, yeah. And then, what do I remember? I remember waking up in a holding cell. Yeah. Waking up in a padded, well, there were heavy iron meshes over the windows and a platform, solid platform about 2 feet high in the middle of the room, maybe 3 feet, 2.5 feet, 3 feet high, with a like a 3-inch pad bolted down to the top of it. That's where I woke up, on top of that pad. And I was like, I had no shoes on, my belt was gone. I just had a t-shirt and pants. But when I first woke up, I was still totally wasted and paranoid as hell and freaking out and I remember there was a big wooden door that I knew was probably the toilet, and then the main door was definitely the out. Nothing from anybody on the other side of those doors. So I remember pissing in the corner. Urinating, relieving myself in the corner of the room. What am I going to do? They didn't even trust me in the bathroom. Do some damage to myself, stumbling and wasted. I remember finding a coin, I think, like they had emptied my pockets, but missed like a dime. And so I remember trying to unscrew like one of the big, heavy, painted over bolts that held the mesh over the window. I'm like, I want to get out of here. So I'm trying to unscrew these heavy bolts. Like, how many of those would I have to get out? With a dime? Just panicked, trying to escape, and passing out again. And then coming to. Totally sober. Don't know how much time passed in those intervals. No idea how much time passed in those intervals. And just coming to and looking around and going to the door that I knew was the way in and out, and knocking and saying, hello, hello, hello. I am being held against my will in a white room. There wasn't padding on the walls. It wasn't exactly a padded cell, but it was a holding cell. And so like there's a slot in the door, and they opened up and look in, and I'm standing there speaking to them. I'm like, wait, where's my stuff? And like, oh, we got it over here for you. I'm like, where am I? What's going on? Just asking all those normal questions that waking up not knowing. Well, reflecting on what had happened the night before as much as you could remember, but not having any idea how you got where you were. I just saw a good friend. We'll talk about him later, but he knew I was recording something, so he held his tongue. But he has an amazing dog. All right. So I wake up not knowing where I am, and they answer. They seem a little perplexed at how I'm talking to them, and I can only speculate that they're a little surprised that last time they peeked in, I was probably stumbling drunk, or last time I made a commotion, I was probably just falling down drunk off my ass, and by their estimations, I think they were surprised at how sober I was all of a sudden. That's all I'm saying. And so it turns out I'm at a mental health center. Yeah. And the minimum stay is 3 days. Minimum stay, that's what they tell me. And they pull me out, they give me something to eat. It's like a room, a community room, or a main room where there's a few other people. It's not like I'm interested in talking to anybody else that's in this place, but the people in the medical attire. And they take my blood. They take a sample of my blood. I said, yeah, we would have done this earlier, but there was no approaching you. There was no approaching you. And so I sit down after they've drawn my blood and run tests. I sit down, and they're like, you have a lethal amount of alcohol in your blood right now. And, you pissed you relieved yourself, so you flushed a bunch of it out of yourself. So it was even worse 10 hours ago, however long I'd been in this place. It was probably 10 to 12 hours only, but that's enough for the alcohol to dilute out or whatever. But it's sitting there, and I was stone cold sober. And they were sitting there kind of perplexed, like they'd never seen anything like it, and they'd seen plenty of fall down drunks. So I don't know, I'm just telling you what happened on the way that they, what the experience was like. And come to find out what had happened the night before, so they started telling me what the circumstances were. Well, of course, first they're getting the important details out of me. Who are you? What's your name? You have contact information, phone number for your parents. I gave them everything I could, and they got on the phone. So there's this interim before my legal guardian shows up. They're telling me what they can tell me. And so apparently it was like 2 or 3 cops were fighting me. Like I was fighting 3 cops. And it's like I actually had forgotten that part until right now. I really had forgotten that part until this moment that they said 3 cops brought you in here and you were fighting all 3 of them. Like I was not wanting to go wherever they were taking me, and I was being vocal about it. I'm a 14-year-old kid, so 3 cops can handle it. Not 1, not 2, but 3. That's fine, whatever. Well, they also thought that I was on something other than just alcohol. I think that explains their stunned reaction when they saw the results. They couldn't take a blood sample the night before. Raging. I don't remember any of it. I don't remember the screaming or the struggle, any of it. I don't remember any of it. And they thought I was on a psychotic combined with alcohol, like that I was having this just awful reaction to some foreign chemical. And I was having a reaction to a chemical, but they told me, it gets better. It gets better. They told me that here's how they described it. They get a call, or they were relaying what the police told them as well. They get a call that there's an underage drinking party. Very common in that neighborhood, among whatever. It's probably a normal call for them. Underage drinking party. Let's go bust it up. They roll up. Well, I was sitting in a room somewhere. I do not remember that. I mean, this part, I have these vague memory reflections, but I don't know if those were my imaginings after I heard about it. Right? Somebody can tell you a story and you can draw pictures in your head. You just form pictures in your head if you didn't actually see it. So when they were telling me what happened, I don't know if I actually have a memory of this glimpse of lucidity when the cops show up and me walking out and talking to them. I don't know if that's a memory or I have embedded, an imagery that may or may not correspond to what actually happened. Either way, I'm being told this happened. So apparently the cops are here, run. That must have happened. You can imagine. And everybody starts to scatter. And I don't know if I was amongst the scattering or if I waited till everybody separated, walked. I don't know if it was calmly. It must have been calmly. The cops are here. I'm going to go talk to the cops. I'm going to talk to the cops. Apparently I had the opposite reaction of everybody else. That's also just occurring to me right now. And what I told the cops, apparently, and meanwhile, I don't know if I was just talking to one cop or two cops, probably just both of them, I don't know, taking down license plate numbers or something. And as people are scattering, they say, I walked up to them, and I don't know if I was staggered up to them, probably staggered up to them and started saying some crazy, 4-letter S word. And one of the things that they said I said was that I was Jesus Christ. That was all relayed to me, that I went up to the cops and told them that I was Jesus Christ, and they arrested me, or they took me. I could kind of reflect on saying, it's like, oh, I was distracting, like I was taking the cops' eyes off of everybody else that could have gotten busted, and just, they found one and they moved. It's like, all right, we got one, let's go. This one's crazy. He needs help. Let's go. He probably needs more help than any of these other kids. And anyway, whatever other things that those officers might have done that night, they were hauling me. They must have radioed back. We got a live one here. This kid, you should hear the stuff he's saying. And you might get a chance because he's getting very loud because he's in the back of the car right now. I imagine they just take hold of me, and maybe that's when I started getting loud. I wonder if I kicked all the way, like tried to kick my way out, or I don't wonder if they put arm restraints. I don't remember if my hands were rubbed raw, or I don't know. I don't remember necessarily any injuries that I might have inflicted upon myself. But so they tell me all of this, and I'm sitting there stone cold sober, and you're telling me 3 days I got to stay in this place? Why the heck? I mean, why would I have to stay in this place? These people are crazy. And they're going, yeah, you know, you're right. That makes sense. My dad shows up and they released me. 12 hours. I was in custody for 12 hours in a place that had a 3 day minimum stay. And that really happened, gosh, when I was 14. And maybe that gives a little insight into a kind of a roller coaster life. It's just, I have a number of stories, and some of them may be more interesting than others, and I'll try and figure out the most interesting ones, but that one says a lot. I mean, that kind of epitomizes some of this roller coaster. I mean, there's really good stuff and really bad stuff and all kinds of stuff in between, and surviving it, enduring it, weathering it, and drawing strength from it, right? Like, it's all about learning. Life lesson is, are you learning as you're living? It's perfect walk and talk. Walking and talking, living. Are you learning? Live and learn. Are you learning as you live? And so that's Tuesdays. Life Lesson Tuesday this is a piece of learning that I went through. I don't know. I mean, I eventually learned. I stopped drinking when I was 18. There's plenty of other stories in between and back and forth, but I stopped cold when I was 18. So I had 4 more years of just heavy partying. And I'd been partying, like, I was 14, and I had the habit of partying hard already. It's just who I was. It's a past life. That is a past life. That isn't. I quit alcohol cold turkey for over a decade, maybe 20 years, where I didn't even, probably 10 years before I even touched a drop of wine. In a friend's house, parent offered it. I was old enough at that point, yeah. I was like, yes, thank you. And have enjoyed alcohol ever since. So I did it wrong for a while, and then now it's like, oh, there is that paradigm of once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It's not an absolute. That's all I gotta say. It's not an absolute. Some people can never shake and properly maintain an alcohol intake routine or habit. Is not destructive to their life. And I don't drink it actually much anymore at all. But I'll have a whiskey, no ice, no flavoring, just I want to taste the whiskey, the way it's meant to be tasted. And I'll sip it for an hour, maybe. That's kind of long, and maybe I'll have one other drink or something else when I'm hanging out with friends. But I don't really do that much anymore either. So, all of that to say, I learned at some point from the destruction, the path of destruction I was on. I was on a path of destruction, and that was a significant road bump, speed bump, hill, or stepping stone. Yeah, right. It's obstacles or stepping stones. It's all a matter of how you see it, how you perceive it. So, kids, don't drink underage, or don't party. Don't try to get your satisfaction from some substance. You have a purpose. You will only be satisfied by pursuing that purpose. Don't get distracted by that kind of nonsense. There is, let's just say the word moderation and focus. You got to stay focused on what's most important, and just moderate yourself, control yourself, Don't be stupid.